So today is Friday, May 17th, 2019, and this video was for my boyfriend, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I met him, my experience with him, some of the lessons that he taught me, and eventually, like, what happened the day we had to not like break up, but like just separate in terms of distance because I had to graduate. I graduated Saturday. So when it came to my boyfriend, like, we met on Tinder, and the reason why I was on Tinder was to make a connection. Um, I started the beginning of my school year, my last semester at SIUE, pretty much alone because at the time all of my friends from the past 5 years or so, about the past 4 years, because college is a 4 year program, they had all graduated in spring of 2018. So for an entire semester I was essentially not alone. I wouldn't say I was alone, but I would say that it was definitely an adjustment going through a time or a period in my life when a lot of my friends that I had seen on a daily basis were suddenly not there anymore. They had their own lives now. And even though we communicated seldomly, it really it really completely altered my lifestyle on campus where suddenly I was having entire days without any meaningful human interaction. And to be in a field like myself, where I'm in a chemistry field, and to be on such a large campus in a PWI, a predominantly white institution, that felt alienating. It didn't feel inclusive at all. I felt like I was just adrift at that point. And over the course of that year, I was able to make new friends. And also, I had to adjust to the fact that a lot of the old friends that I had in college weren't in my life anymore. I realized that quite a few of the people that graduated were the only bridge I had with a certain set of friends. And one of the lessons that my boyfriend taught me is that friends, when it comes to friends, some friends are there for a season and others are there for a reason. And I had to take that lesson to heart as I was adjusting. Of course, I didn't know that lesson until I met him. But let's see. Let's go back to January. So in January, I was on Tinder. I bought Tinder Gold because I'm a fucking creep. Excuse my French. And I bought Tinder Gold because I wanted to see who actually liked me. And I'm a bisexual man. So I had women and men as my preferred options on. And one of the weird experiences, or I guess one of the more eye-opening experiences about Tinder, was that there were a lot of gay men that were liking me at the time, far more than women at the time. So I suppose when I matched with my boyfriend, it was providence in a way, sort of an act of providence, and a little bit of luck that I found him. I was immediately attracted to his beautiful smile. He has this electric smile that still to this day is so enchanting to see. When he smiles, it's honestly like a ray of sunshine coming through, like the biggest storm cloud. And his personality radiates even brighter than his smile. So we matched on Tinder. I was the first person to message him, and I noticed in his description, his bio, that he liked music. So I asked him, what sort of genres of music do you like? Or I asked him something along the lines, because one of the fun things that Tinder says is that people will respond to questions a little better than if you just asked, hey, what's up? Or what are you doing? I never reply to those because they're boring. And honestly, I am a little antisocial, so I never like questions that are like WYA question mark. That's such a boring question. It's like, guys, if you want somebody to reply to you, put a little bit of effort into communicating with them. But that's just a lesson for a completely other day. So me and my boyfriend really kicked it off on Tinder, and eventually I gave him my number, and for about a week we were texting, and I started to realize that I was talking not to somebody that just wanted me for sex or wanted me just to take just for a season, but somebody that was genuinely wanted to make a connection with me, even to be my friend. And I knew, fast forwarding about 2 weeks later, that when we had finally met for the first time to go to Panera, and later we shared a Airbnb together, that I had found someone really special. So the first date that we had was to Panera, and God, when I tell you that it was the first time I had ever gotten into a stranger's car and rode off with them anywhere, it was with Keithan. But when I say that he has this warm aura around him that is sort of hard to describe, but he's genuine and he's kind. And I didn't have any money or any kind of funds when I first met him, but one of the most surprising things that he did very early on was say, I got it for you. And that had never crossed my mind that you could find people with the kind of generosity and kindness, people that you just meet them, they come into your life, but already they're trying to show you that it's not about material things, it's about the quality and the experience that we have together. And that was sort of really profound for me, because I started to believe that so many relationships were just about materialism and about how many likes you can get on Instagram and Facebook, and how many retweets you can get about how dysfunctional your relationship is. And it's all about who's cheating, how faithful you are, blase blase. Nobody really wants to be happy. Everybody just wants to have enough drama to keep others entertained. And that was another aspect about a relationship that we both began to really resonate with. I began to really resonate with him, especially after our first date, when it just came to our ability to communicate our expectations about what a healthy relationship looks like. And so we started dating regularly in February, and he was my Valentine, my very first Valentine. Well, maybe he wasn't my first Valentine, but he truly was the person that I was beginning to have romantic, like, intense feelings for. Like, he would he would do things for me that honestly my family wouldn't do for me. My closest friends didn't do for me at school. He would provide for me when I had nothing. He would sacrifice his last to make sure that I was straight. He just a small thing like getting my hair cut with him was a really big deal for me because no one had ever taken me to the shop and just been like, I can't have my boyfriend looking crazy like this. You're gonna go get your hair cut. And I'm looking pretty crazy today, but that's besides the point. Um, so February passed, and then on March 12th, after maybe our 10th or 12th date or so, we'd been going out to the movies and out to dinner and to the park and other things like that. I'd finally asked Keithan, like, hey, do you want to be my boyfriend? Um, Keithan had been for a long time my only friend throughout like the entire last semester of college for me. He was there for me. He showed me generosity and gratitude and just the kind of respect and love I thought I deserved as a man. But I never felt that anybody was really out there that could that was selfless enough or anything like that to like come into my life and genuinely want to help me. And one thing about my boyfriend that he knows is that I want to share every good experience with people, like with genuine people. And so it was a big transition in my life to have a boyfriend because at the time I hadn't come out to really anybody. There was a few people that knew I was bisexual, but there was basically no one knew I was dating anybody except for the occasional hickeys that would appear on my neck, and people would be like, "Oh, Jaren, who are you dating? Who's this mysterious girl that's leaving all these hickeys on your neck?" And I would just play it off, or I would like change the subject just to be cool. But in reality, it was this really beautiful man that was uh, we have a lot of fun. Let's put it that way. um, so we have shared so much together, not just in terms of professing our love for each other, but like just mapping out all of our life goals and all of our dreams. And we've even at some point we began to talk about owning a business together. We one day like we decided to go make quesadillas, and Keithan was talking about, oh, let's make a let's make quesadillas. And because I'm a iron chef, low key iron chef, not a real iron chef, I decided to make quesadillas, and he had brought his cousin over, and we had a whole taste testing. It was basically dinner, and it was moments like that when I realized that it's so rare to find people that come into your life with the purpose of adding value to it and not trying to subtract anything or trying to subdue any of your potential or any of your energy, that I thought was so profound. Um, because a lot of people are really trying to just get into a relationship for a come up, but Keithan wasn't like that at all. Keithan and I started off just wanting to be good friends. And when I decided to ask him to be my boyfriend, I knew that I couldn't just let this man walk around single anymore, because he had ameliorated my life to such a degree that I felt his value was worth being called my boyfriend. And I was at the time not prepared to face the consequences of what would happen if we were ever to separate in terms of distance. But that was a question that he had asked, like, how do you feel about long-term relationships? And I'm sure that was a little after I had asked him to be my boyfriend. And at first I kind of like shrugged the question off. I was like, oh, I don't like long distance relationships. They're completely untenable. You can't really have a relationship with anybody when you're not next to them all the time. And so that really began to sink in April, when suddenly I had to come to the realization that one day I would probably have to leave. So that's when I began to really panic. Like, for sure, in April, I was applying for so many jobs near my school and in the St. Louis area. And I was even getting interviews. And of course, Keithan was there to take me to my interviews. But really, my plan was to sort of run away with him, and it didn't really work out like that at all. My plan was to run away with him because I was tired of the monotony, and I didn't want to get complacent going home, living at home with my underneath my parents' roof, because I knew that the opportunities here in Chicago just weren't as outstanding as they were in the St. Louis area. Just in terms of the opportunities within the chemical and biopharmaceutical industries, but also just the opportunity to finally like live with somebody that I loved. I I couldn't imagine, and I still can't imagine not living with him, because he's had that kind of impact in my life. And I tell him this all the time, so this video is really just for your eyes only. But the real conversations that we have together are so much more intense than anything I desire to put on camera right now. But I'll warm up to the camera when I start to warm up to the image of seeing myself. And that alone was another thing that Keithan taught me, was just that I am an attractive guy. Like, I guess we all have our insecurities, and one of my insecurities is that I wasn't attractive, and he would always remind me that I am. And I know that sounds kind of childish, but like, to me, it's not, you know. But yeah, so I'm not gonna keep the video too long, but I did want to wrap up and just talk about sort of like our last moments together before I had to leave for home. So on May 11th, I graduated with my Bachelor of Science in Chemistry, and it was a really big day for me. I'm sort of skipping over a really big moment in my life where I came out to my parents about being a bisexual man. And I also introduced them to I introduced them to my boyfriend on graduation day. And the reason why I decided to come out the Thursday before graduation was because there was a huge dilemma where this man who had essentially been my spiritual support, my emotional support, my everything, was not invited to one of the most significant days in my life. And I had to make a choice between either introducing him just as a friend or introducing him as my boyfriend. And the difference between those two scenarios, I felt, would highlight how much I really respected Keithan as, well, my boyfriend, but also how much I respected him as sort of like the chief provider of my spiritual support. Because, you know, it's not easy, of course, coming out to your parents, and that's a video for an entirely different day. But I had to really muster up the courage to do it because I felt that it was a two-pronged thing where it was respect for Keithan, but it was also self-respect and self-acceptance of myself. I felt that I was oppressing myself, not coming out to my family, because I wasn't living in my truth. I was sort of living in a facade. I was living a lie. And Keithan sort of coached me through how this would go, and he wasn't there to hold my hand for it, but he was there to give me the comfort and the courage. And I have another friend to thank for guiding me along that process as well. His name is Adam. And so when I finally came out to my parents, it actually wasn't this big dramatic moment like I thought it was. I thought, honestly, it was going to be this horrible, volcanic, dramatic moment full of anger and confusion, and it just wasn't. And I'm grateful that I have accepting parents. I know for a lot of the gay community, especially the individuals that live in like really religious and fundamentalist families, that can almost be an impossible endeavor. And a lot of us have to live in secret just to protect ourselves from harm and from ostracization, or whichever word it is. It wasn't easy, but it still isn't easy. And I just want Keithan to know that he has transformed my life, I think, more profoundly than he knows, because I honestly feel like I can execute all of the things I want to do in my life now because the truth is out, and because I feel like I not only graduated from school, but I graduated from a state, like a former state of self, where now I can live my dreams the way that they were meant to be lived. And I feel like I have more courage to go out and to face the world because I had to make that leap of faith. I had to defeat my I had to defeat the fear of not being loved and not being accepted and living my truth. And that moment, for him to be the cause of all of that, is so important. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave. I'm gonna go ahead and like try to make this like part one of a part two conversation, because the video is gonna moving on 25 minutes. But I just want to say to my boyfriend that I love you, that you've been an amazing person in my life, that I'm coming back for you. You have nothing to worry about. Stop worrying about me wanting to separate from you, because that's not what's going on at all. And that when we get back together, is everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be amazing. So that's all I have for now. And thanks for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And peace out.